Hi guys, welcome to my channel. Today's video is another analyzing a certain influencer video, and as you can see by the title, today I am going to talk in depth about Bryce Hall. Now, Bryce Hall is an interesting person to me because he kind of came out of nowhere. At least in my world, he kind of came out of nowhere. It was just like all of a sudden, suddenly he's in the news all the time, or he's always trending, or there's something happening with Bryce Hall. But I didn't really know how that happened and how he rose to the level of notoriety that he does have now. And so I decided that I wanted to make a video on him and just kind of analyze how he got to where he is and where he's going in the future. So if you are interested, go ahead and keep watching. Please like if you want to be nice to me. Please do subscribe to my channel and turn on the post notifications so that you're notified of the next time that I post a video. And I do want to apologize for not posting in the past few weeks. I've just been super busy. School just started. I've been working. And just a lot of personal stuff has been happening in the last few weeks, so I haven't posted, but I will try to become more consistent in the coming weeks, so stay tuned for that. So without further ado, let's just go ahead and get into the video. So Bryce Hall. Bryce Hall is a 21-year-old YouTuber slash TikToker and just overall influencer from Maryland. He has 12.8 million followers on TikTok and 2.7 million subscribers on YouTube. He's part of the more straight TikTok part of TikTok, if you know anything about the app, where he basically does the more mainstream content, which is dancing or, you know, those pranks or skits or whatever he does. Basically just a lot of straight TikTok. And he also does a lot of vlogs, kind of short vlogs reminiscent of like David Dobrik type vlogs on his vlog channel on YouTube. And he does more clickbaity type, crazy type of content, very, very reminiscent of Jake Paul as well, which I will get into later in the video. But yeah, he does that type of content, the type of content that I'm not very much interested in. I don't think that a lot of people who are maybe older or maybe watch this channel might be super interested in his type of content, just from what I'm gathering. You know, he does that type of content. You know what I'm talking about. So how did Bryce Hall gain his fame, notoriety, whatever you want to call it? So Bryce actually became kind of famous, or he gained a following on YouNow of all platforms. I always think it's strange whenever I hear of influencers becoming big on YouNow, just because it's literally just, you just go on there and you go live. And that's really it, or that was the gist of it before YouNow kind of died. And now it's been replaced by like Instagram and all of these other sites that you can go live on. But that was the OG just going live for a bunch of people site. And Bryce Hall apparently became famous on YouNow of all sites. And so he gained, I think it said like 30,000 followers on YouNow. And then he started to go to Musical.ly and YouTube and basically started to branch off onto different platforms and gain a following on these different platforms, specifically YouTube and now TikTok. But he's done a good job, I think, of branching off onto different platforms and becoming known on these different platforms rather than just sticking to one. Especially if he had stuck to YouNow, he would have been stuck because YouNow ended up like basically dying. So he was very smart to branch off onto different platforms. Now, Bryce is part of a content house, which is just like a certain someone. I think his name is like Rake Hall, Snake Ball, Jake Paul. I think that's his name. Yeah, he also has a content house just like Jake Paul. And Bryce is basically the leader of this content house, and all of these kids in the content house, their names are Griffin Johnson, Keo Sire, I think that's how you pronounce his last name, Quentin Griggs, Josh Richards, Jaden Hostler, Anthony Reeves, and if I'm forgetting someone else, I'm so sorry, but they are all part of the Sway house, and it's clear that Bryce is the leader of this house if he hasn't already made that known and clear on his YouTube and TikTok or whatever, but he's clearly the leader of this house. One thing that I find particularly interesting about Bryce and his relationship with the Sway house is the simple fact that all of his content is really surrounding the fact that he is in this Sway house. His YouTube videos have all of the members in them basically all of the time, if not one, multiple, but it's never really just him. His TikToks, a lot of them are him or someone else. He's always with these other people, and he's basically known for being the leader of the Sway house. I think that's been a way for him to really gain notoriety is through this content house, especially because all of these other TikTokers also have huge platforms. And so he kind of just jumps throughout, these different platforms of the other people on his house. And therefore he gains fame that way, which is the point of a lot of these content houses. But I think that Bryce in particular does this extremely well, especially because he makes it known that he is the dominant person in the house. So let's now transition into Bryce Hall's appeal. I think that there is some sort of appeal to Bryce Hall that I don't necessarily feel, but that I can see other people getting from Bryce Hall. For one thing, he's an attractive white guy. Don't know what else to say. He's attractive enough, and he's white, and he's fit. So we all know how that goes. Honestly, just like Bryce Hall, a lot of other, kind of white male creators that kind of do the same thing as Bryce Hall. They remind me of literally almost every single other boy at my high school exactly like that. Like, it's actually to a T. Like, they act the exact same way. And so I've never understood the appeal because I was like, but they're just like all of the other ones. But all of the other ones at my high school also always had girlfriends to cheat on. So, I guess that's an appeal. Girls find him very attractive. He has a very young audience as well. And so a lot of people might have a crush on him. And also, he has a lot of appeal when it comes to his content, just in the fact that it's crazy, and younger audiences are very drawn to crazy and outlandish content and content that's out of the box and content where they're doing crazy pranks or crazy stunts or just something crazy. And that's what he offers, very similar again to Jake Paul. And so a lot of his content might not be appealing to older audiences that might watch my content or, the content of just older, maybe more mature creators or just creators that talk about more serious things. But he's very appealing to young, like 13-year-olds or, people in that demographic. And he definitely feeds into that heavily. One thing that I will also say about Bryce Hall's content and his appeal to younger audiences is the fact that his content is pretty vulgar. But for some reason, he knows how to appeal to kids even more with this vulgar content. And I think that's because a lot of the times kids like to be rebellious and just push limits as far as they possibly can. And so they might like more vulgar content because all they're being fed on Disney Channel, on Nickelodeon, on Cartoon Network is a lot of, PG content, which is the content that they should take in. But since they now have access to YouTube, to TikTok, they're able to watch these creators who push limits and kind of live life on the edge the way that Bryce Hall and his friends do. And so therefore they're drawn to him. and they're always going to be drawn to things that are rebellious, and whatever their parents don't want them to watch, that's what they're going to watch. And that's definitely the content that Bryce Hall gives, and I think that he knows that he's doing this. I think a lot of the times when you see creators who make inappropriate content for the audience that they know that they have, I think that it's very purposeful, just simply because they know that that is what is selling. So regardless of their knowledge of their influence with these groups of young kids, they still know that they're making millions of dollars off of these young kids as well. So they're going to do what they feel like they have to do. Now let's get into what Bryce Hall is really known for, and that is his controversies. He's had a lot of controversies in the short amount of time that he's really had a substantial following. He really started YouNow in 2015, but he's really gained a following in, I'd say, the last 2 years. And in that amount of time, he's had a lot of drama surrounding him. And so that's really going to be the bulk of this video. So the first situation that I wanted to talk about is my introduction to Bryce Hall. Actually, this was the first time that I'd ever really heard of him or heard anything about him, really. I feel like I might have heard his name before this, but this was my real introduction to who he was. Basically last year, he was in a relationship with another influencer named Elle and Bryce, and videos had leaked showing that she was basically verbally and physically abusive to him. The videos don't actually show the physical abuse, but you can hear the physical abuse and you can also hear the verbal abuse. Apparently, Bryce had allegedly cheated on her. That's what she was yelling at him about in the video. And then she proceeded to hit him and egg him on to hit her back. After this situation and after these videos were leaked, both Bryce and Elle took to social media to address the situation, and Bryce, surprisingly to me, considering everything else that I know about him so far, he actually stood up for Elle and asked people not to hate on her. And he was saying that the situation, he did not want it to be public. And that just kind of says to me that he did care about her a lot, even if it was toxic, because it definitely was toxic. But he did definitely care about her, and he did not want to see her go through the amount of public scrutiny that she was going through. And after the situation, I haven't heard much about her at all. This was my only time hearing about her at all. So I feel like people might have really canceled her, or she's just been flying low on the radar, or maybe she just didn't get to the level of fame that Bryce now has. But yeah, the situation was very unfortunate. I'm going to go ahead and play the videos. If you are sensitive to these videos, I'm going to go ahead and leave a timestamp in the description below so that you can just go ahead and skip them. But I did want to play them just so that you can understand how serious the situation truly was.
The funny thing is that you hit me 18 times. What are you going to do, hit me again?
I just want my jewel.
What are you going to do for it?
You don't have your phone? Why don't you hit me in the face?
What are you going to hit?
Why don't you hit me in the face?
You're pushing me?
Why don't you hit me
What are
in
you
the face?
pushing my
Why
Get
don't
off
you hit
me.
me in the face?
Elle, get
Why
off
don't you hit me in the face?
Elle, get off
Why
me.
don't you hit me in the face?
Elle.
Punch me. Punch me. Why don't you punch me in the
You're
face,
literally-
big son? Punch me in the face. Where's your camera? Is your camera going? Oh, cute. Alright.
Get off my camera. Hello? Get off my camera. That is a setup. You're
Punch me in the
hitting.
face.
Why are you...
Punch me in the face. Punch me in the face. Do it. Do it. Do it. Punch me in the face.
This is actually insane.
Punch me in the face.
You are actually...
Punch me in the face, Bryce.
Are you actually...
Is that what you want? Is that what you want? Yeah? Is that what you want?
Stop.
Is that what you want? Is that what you want?
Elle.
Is that what you want? Is that what you wanted the whole time that I was dating you and I fucked you? Is that what you wanted? Is that what you wanted?
Elle.
You're getting mad? You're gonna punch me in the face? You're gonna be black-eyed?
You just punched me in the face. I'm getting really mad.
You're gonna punch me in the face? Is that what you're gonna do?
Now, his next relationship that has gotten a lot of attention has been his on again, off again relationship with Addison Rae. Addison Rae is another influencer on TikTok mainly. I think she's still the second most followed TikToker on the platform. And I did a video about her. One of these videos, actually, I did about Addison. And I will leave that link in the description below if you want to go ahead and watch that video as well to kind of see who Addison is as a person. But the two have been dating on again, off again since last year. And they've kind of made it a point to make it a little bit of a it's kind of always been a running thing on Bryce's channel to continuously kind of hint at him actually dating Addison, but not really telling any information, and to just leave fans wondering if he's single, if he's taken, which I think is a very smart marketing ploy, just because it leaves people guessing. It gives people hope that he's still single and he can date you or whatever, but it also leaves people who want them to be together, it leaves them to go ahead and let their imaginations run wild. So I think that it's very smart on both of their parts to kind of use each other in that way, and it has helped both of them gain more fame, especially on, you know, the different tea pages on Instagram and everything. They've definitely been on there their fair share of times, but recently they've definitely called it quits. It seems like they might get back together at some point, but it seems like for right now they've definitely called it quits. And I'm just going to go ahead and insert a clip of one of their breakups and kind of what happened, and it was a paparazzi interview, just so that you can see how much attention that they were getting due to this relationship that kept having a lot of drama and a lot of controversy surrounding it.
She deleted your picture. I think it's because it didn't get enough likes. Wait, she deleted the picture of us? Oh. Yeah, what's up with that? Are you guys going through like a tough time right now, or? Well, I don't know, to be honest. I actually woke up super confused with everything, yeah. I personally have nothing. I think that's actually Addison right there in the G-Wagon. Oh, really? Oh, yeah. Oh, I think it is. Oh, wait, no, she's look who it is. What's going on? Here's Addison actually right there. There we go. You gotta find out. We're leaving you with Addison. Yeah, now you can have him. Why did you delete the picture? Why'd you delete the picture, Addison? Oh, my God. All right, well, I guess I'm going with you guys. So, Addison, what's up? This is crazy.
So just as much as Bryce Hall is known for his relationships and his very confusing relationships, because Addison and Elle are not the only two women that he's been linked with, and Addison is not the only woman that he's been linked with where it's kind of confusing. He's, I think, in a confusing situation right now. So he's definitely in a lot of those. And I think that he has been using that as a marketing ploy, I think, in a lot of ways. I don't think that the first situation was, but I do think that Addison and other girls have been used in some type of way as a marketing ploy. But the other thing that Bryce Hall is known for is his affinity for fighting. He likes to fight. I don't really understand. Well, I do understand, kind of. Couldn't be me. Fighting is not the answer, especially at 21 years old. At some point, you have to get over it. You're not in high school anymore. And these situations can come with real consequences that could land you in jail, given the right circumstance. So I don't understand why he continues to fight. But then again, I do, because that's now his brand. That's kind of what he's known for. He's known for acting as if he's a very tough guy. Bryce Hall gets in fights about every few months. He actually got in a fight recently, this week. Apparently someone had hit one of his friends, and all of his friends jumped that person. And although I don't think that that situation in and of itself proves that Bryce Hall is a horrible, combative, aggressive person, he gets in fights a lot. So, you know, it's just crazy. Yeah, if you get into as many fights as he's gotten into, at some point you have to realize that maybe you might be the problem in a lot of these situations. Now, I'm not a psychologist. I don't know what's going on in Bryce's head, nor do I know much about his personal life. But when you fight this much, to where there are so many videos, different videos of you fighting or you addressing what happened in this fight or that fight, there might be some underlying issues with you. Now, like I said earlier, I do think that a lot of these fights might be staged or might be a marketing ploy, or maybe he even thinks that he needs to hold up some sort of facade. One thing about Bryce Hall is that it seems like he loves this tough guy image. He likes to be the alpha male in every situation, which is why he's the alpha male in the Sway house. And he definitely projects the fact that he really, truly needs to be the alpha male in the Sway house. Now, I'm not the type of person to blame everything on toxic masculinity. Quite frankly, I think that that term is overused. But in this situation, when someone is clearly physically aggressive to many people in situations where it's probably not warranted, I do think that he has a lot of toxic masculinity that he probably should overcome at some point. At 21, you feel like you have less responsibilities than you do because you're a new adult, but you still feel like a kid. I can attest to this because I'm around his age. He's only a year older than I am. So I understand that he might feel as if he's still a kid and he still doesn't have any consequences to his actions. But when you continuously put your hands on people, at some point it's going to come back to bite you. So I think that he needs to somehow get it under control. He somehow needs to get it under control to where he doesn't need to fight everyone who he has any type of beef or any type of animosity towards. And also, I do think, again, that is kind of reminiscent of Jake Paul. Jake Paul is known for boxing. He boxes a lot of people. He boxed KSI, and it was a huge deal. And I do think that Bryce not only probably maybe has anger issues or toxic masculinity issues that he needs to work out, but he also thinks that if he fights, he can have the same type of image that Jake Paul has of, a no-nonsense, don't mess with me tough guy. And I do think that he's trying to copy Jake Paul. He's trying to be another Jake Paul in that sense. So yeah, his fighting is definitely an issue. And I don't really respect anyone who can't learn to manage their anger, especially at the age that he's at, because even though he's young, he is definitely old enough to know better. And I do have to say, and some people might think that I'm being a little too, liberal or race baiting. But what I will say is that if he were black, I don't think that much of this would slide, that much of this behavior would slide. And I think that he is taking advantage of the fact that he knows that he probably will not face as many consequences as other people or any consequences at all for his aggression. And the last pattern of behavior that a lot of people have called Bryce out for, and which I will touch on briefly, is his partying during the coronavirus pandemic quarantine situation thing. He obviously has not been social distancing or doing anything like that. And the mayor of Los Angeles was so fed up with his huge partying that the mayor of Los Angeles actually turned off Bryce Hall's water and electricity in his house, causing him and his Sway house members to move to a different house and do everything all over again. So that kind of didn't work out, especially considering they have all of this money. They can easily just move. So I don't know what was accomplished there, really. And he's also, I think, facing criminal charges. But quite frankly, I don't think that anything is going to come of that, considering the fact that the law really doesn't have anything in place for social distancing during a pandemic that no one could have predicted. And it is actually, he has an easy argument against any charges really brought up against him. I think he does. You could just easily say, I have a First Amendment right to gather. And then there you go. It's just that simple. So I don't think that he's going to go to jail or anything like that. So I don't know why everyone's acting like he will. And In this situation, all I can say is that I just wish that people would have the same energy with everybody. If you're going to criticize one person for doing something, then you should criticize everyone for doing that thing. If you're going to criticize Bryce Hall for partying, then you should also criticize the D'Amelio sisters, which I have seen way less criticism against them and way more criticism towards Bryce Hall. Why? Well, because Bryce Hall is an easier character to criticize considering everything else, and all of his other behavior. It's easier to hate on Bryce Hall than it is to hate on Charli D'Amelio. However, if you're going to have that energy, keep it the same for everyone who's doing that thing that you don't like. Even with Addison Rae and just all of these different influencers, specifically young TikTokers, all of them have been partying, and yet only one person has been really taking the heat and flack for it, and that is Bryce Hall. I know that Charli D'Amelio and Dixie D'Amelio and all of these other influencers have been taking some sort of heat for it, but it's just, I just think that if you're going to have that energy, keep it the same with everybody. That is all I ask. I just wish that everyone would stop being so hypocritical, especially during this time. It's really showing how hypocritical everybody can be. Like, everybody. So that's all I have to say about that. So, Bryce's career longevity is definitely an interesting topic to ponder. I think that Bryce Hall is one of those influencers who is going to be bigger and bigger and get bigger, and his peak is not going to come for a while. Though I personally wish that this wasn't true, considering everything that I've mentioned in this video about him, especially with his content being so inappropriate for his audience, I do think that his content is what is hot right now, especially for kids. Bryce does a lot of things that, come off to a lot of people as disrespectful, rude, gross, disgusting. I mean, a lot of things that he does, I do not agree with at all. However, it's what's going to keep him relevant and popular. Considering how fast his platforms have been growing, how fast he's become recognizable, his name has become recognizable, his face has become recognizable to so many kids, and I do think that, this whole quarantine has had something to do with it, because everyone has to just stay inside and consume his content or other people's content. But considering how fast he's risen to fame, I do think that he is not going to reach his peak anytime soon. One thing that Bryce Hall knows how to do is he knows how to market himself. He knows how to remain known. And he knows how to put his content onto different platforms and make himself big on different platforms. He knew how to switch from YouNow to Musical.ly to YouTube to TikTok. And I don't think that that's going to stop anytime soon. And so for that, I will give him props, because I do think that being an influencer is a little harder than you think, just because you have to know how to continually grow your audience and how to keep your audience, especially with big platforms popping up all the time like TikTok. Another thing is that I think that Bryce Hall is very, again, reminiscent of Jake Paul. And I do believe that Bryce Hall is the new Jake Paul. Whether that be a good or bad thing, we can have that conversation probably later in this video. But he is the new Jake Paul in a lot of ways. And I do think that new kids who are on TikTok might find him, there are kids who might find him to be rude and disrespectful, but a lot of kids might find him to be exciting and edgy and, attractive maybe. I don't know. But a lot of people might see him the same way that a lot of people saw Jake Paul. And Bryce knows this. He knows this very well. And so he's playing his cards very right by, honestly, he's living the same life Jake Paul was living like 2-3 years ago. If you look at what he's actually doing with his career, even his personal life, it is clear that Bryce Hall is simply imitating Jake Paul. But he's doing it on newer platforms like TikTok. So he's coming up on TikTok rather than having to transfer that onto TikTok the way that Jake Paul has to. And Jake Paul is also kind of on a decline, I would say. He's not in the news as much, and he's just been kind of focusing on boxing and things like that. And so I think Bryce Hall is taking his place slowly but surely. And at some point, people are going to know Bryce Hall the same way that they know Jake Paul. I do think that he is definitely on the incline rather than the decline. However, one thing that I think Bryce needs to be wary of is the fact that people hate Jake Paul. People see what Jake Paul has done, especially he's just done a lot of horrible things. And I think that Bryce needs to understand that you can keep up with the image, but be careful of what actions you actually imitate, because a lot of people hate Jake Paul. So maybe you shouldn't be just like him. I do think that he's done a relatively better job with the Sway House than Jake Paul has with Team 10. There hasn't been any crazy people leaving and saying that he's doing crazy things to them in the house or anything like that yet, at least. And I think that if Bryce can keep that up, he's already gotten an edge against Jake Paul. I do think that Bryce needs to make sure that he doesn't date too many girls and just things like that, just certain things that Jake Paul did that really caused a lot of people to hate him. Bryce Hall can't repeat. But if he keeps up the same image, which I don't agree with, by the way, I don't like his image at all. But a lot of people do. A lot of people find it exciting. If he can find a way to toe the edge between keeping the image and also not imitating all of Jake Paul's actions, I do think that he has a one-up, and I do think that it'll actually benefit him in the long run. And lastly, I'll give you my personal opinion on Bryce Hall. If you couldn't tell, I don't like him. I just don't. I don't like Jake Paul. He imitates Jake Paul. I don't like him. It's that simple. I think that he has a lot of fragile masculinity that he needs to probably take care of in some capacity, because his constant violence is not appealing at all. And I do think that it will get him in trouble, especially if he hits the wrong guy who's also a pretty white boy. Then it'll be probably a fair trial, and then he might get some justice being served towards him. So he needs to be careful who he hits. But I just think that he's arrogant. I don't like his content. I think that his content is mediocre at best. I mean, just to be completely transparent and honest, I don't think that it takes much talent or real effort to make the types of videos that he makes. I think that he inserts himself in a lot of petty drama between different TikTokers, and he somehow acts as if he is the grandfather of all TikTokers and acts as if he's the all-knowing and has much more wisdom than a lot of these other people, which is completely and utterly false. I know 13-year-olds who have more wisdom in their pinky finger than he does in his entire body, but that's neither here nor there. I think that, again, he's very arrogant, conceited. He's one of those, he's just like a quintessential frat boy, and I can't do it. And I think that he knows his status in society. He knows that he's very privileged. He knows the type of influence that he has, and he takes advantage for his own benefit and not for anyone else's. I heard that he's donated money to the Black Lives Matter movement and things like that, but then again, everyone had to do that at that point just to save face. So I really don't buy it. I don't know if he's necessarily racist or bigoted or anything like that, but I do know that Bryce Hall is he's just not a good person to look up to, especially if you're very young. Young kids on TikTok should not be watching his content. Young kids on YouTube should not be watching his content. It's not for children, and they'll continue to watch his content. And I do think that that's going to be a problem in the long run, especially given the type of things that he talks about in his videos and the types of, dances he does on TikTok. It's just not good for young 13-year-old girls to watch. So, yeah, I just don't like the dude. Yeah, I don't like the dude. I mean, what else can I say? It's just, I don't really like people who continuously pick fights with others and move through life as if no consequences should be met out towards them. But that's it. That's all I have for Bryce Hall. That's the whole video, my opinion on him. And yeah, now you know who Bryce Hall is. So that is it for this video. Please enjoy this obligatory picture of Justin Bieber as I close out. But that is everything that you really need to know about Bryce Hall, or at least everything that I know that I think that you need to know about Bryce Hall. If you have anything else that you wanted to mention about him, anything to add to the conversation, please do comment that down below. It'd just be very interesting to see other people's perspectives on someone who I think will become a bigger figure, in the coming months on social media. I do believe that he's definitely on the rise, and it's just very interesting to see his growth on social media. So yeah, if you did enjoy this video, please go ahead and give it a big thumbs up. Go ahead and comment down below what you think of Bryce Hall, what you think of everything that I mentioned in this video, anything that I didn't mention. Please comment that down below, and please do subscribe to my channel and turn on the post notifications so that you're notified of the next time that I post a video. So without further ado, thank you again so much for watching, and I will see you in my next one. Bye!